Hello everyone, Cutting Tool Designer here. Welcome to part one of a project series. This will take place over time. It's going to be called Project Case, episode number 1. So this is going to be about the Case 580 CK Backhoe. Repairing or repacking the left swing cylinder on the Backhoe boom. I already have it taken off the machine. I was able to get the piston out of the machine without taking the cylinder off, which was made things a little easier. So we're going to go through and put some new seals, new repacking on the gland, new seals on the piston. So stay tuned, and we'll get working on that here in just a second. Okay, let's take a quick look at some stuff here. I had bought a whole tractor complete seal system from Fox Machine from eBay. So pretty nice kit. Again, bring the picture in here, Fox Machine. The only thing that didn't come with it was the seals for the steering cylinders, which I bought them separately. And then I also bought a couple of tools, and one being, this is a seal prier to pry out your seals from the end of your gland nut. So you're supposed to be able to use these to get in here and then pry up on them. I actually had to use a little screwdriver to get out the housing for where the outer seal is supposed to be. This is all that was left of it, just the metal ring. And it's supposed to look like this. So that was one reason why there was some leakage going on. The O-ring seal for around the outside, the backer ring, I took the backer ring off, it was still on there, but the O-ring itself was already broke and fell off. It's laid out on the ground right at the moment. So that was leaking around here. This is called the packing. It seemed like it was in pretty good shape. Snapped it out. It goes in down here, and then of course your main hydraulic seal goes down in here, and of course this is pretty much deteriorated, fell apart trying to get it out. So make sure you have yourself a set of little picks, helps out a lot. So we'll start with the packing cylinder, and then we'll move on to the piston and see about putting things back together. So hang on one second, we'll be right back. Okay, I think the first thing I'm going to do is get the main hydraulic seal. This is another tool that I bought that you can use to get the seals in a little easier. And basically how that works is this is the main gland seal. The ridge pointed up goes down into the gland. There's an opening spacing here, and what happens then is there's a chamfer inside right in here. So that chamfer opens up, so hydraulic fluid will actually go back into the back of this and compress it, and that helps seal it. So what we're going to do, just to make life a little easier, is we are going to put a little bit of grease on this seal. A little bit on the inside, a little bit on the outside. Give it some lubricity for reassembly. And then what you do is you take this little tool, point it the right way, and set them on the inside of the seal And then as you spread it, it kind of compresses it inwards, like so. And that's to allow you, see if I can press it down far enough without destroying it, to reach down in here, get it in here. Not as easy as it looks, I guess. There we go. Release it. Pull it out. And it didn't quite go in the whole way, but now it's in. Okay, so there's your main seal. It's in there. And then on the back side, and the kit comes with a lot of other pieces here that we're not going to use. This is a Type 1 cylinder with the press-in. This is for a Model 33 backhoe. So this is a press-in wiper. Then they also use these packings in the back and in the front on the Type 2, and we're not using that. So we have two of these, and we just kind of spread them apart with the ridge facing up. Try and get it into this little slot. Like so. Get it to press in there so that they overlap. So here's another one. So we have an extra one of these, so they're gapped like this so that you have a little bit of spread there. The tapered end points up on this side of the cylinder. Where's the cylinder? So that looks good. And we will take and put a little bit of grease in there. So that's that. There was a lot of boogering back here. I'm not sure why. So I took a stone and kind of softened it up so there wasn't any sharp edges. I'm not sure how all these things got hit. Okay, so that's that. And then I didn't bring a tool to press this in. And what you want is the lip side to be up like this. So it has to go in like that. So what I'll do is just gently tap it in. See how much room we got. Yeah, still got to go in a little ways. So we're going to just gently tap it in a few spots. Being careful not to hit the seal. And work that around. Now, I'm going to leave this alone for a second. I'll finish this up off camera. Next thing we need to do is put our O-rings on. So, comes with a set of O-rings. Now you want the flat one, and it is flat on both sides. It needs to go on first. So we're going to work it down around the cylinder. It's going to be a little tight fit. Try and get this down on here without having it flop around on us. Try not to break it. Okay, make sure that it's laying flat and hasn't twisted over backwards on any side. And I'll just take this, push it down along the back side gently. Like so. Okay. And we'll throw And we'll throw a little bit of grease in this groove too while I'm at it. Move it up a little bit. And then of course the O-ring has to go on. Next, stretch it down. Make sure it's sitting in there, not over top. So you got it over top of the backer, so smooth that around. Make sure the backer's there. Alright, let's just do a little bit more grease. Just so it is not dry going into the cylinder when we put it on. Okay, well that's it for the packing gland. That's really all there is to this Type 1 cylinder. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we'll move on to the pistons. So give me a second, we'll be right back. Alright, I'm going to work on the piston here real quick. So here's the piston. There's 3 parts to it. This back side makes a washer, and then the nut goes into, or the bolt goes into it, which we'll show here in a little bit. This side goes around the actual rod shaft. So we'll pick this first half up, and what we have here is the set of packings for the cylinder. You got what they call V packings on one side, on both sides actually. Then you have a centerpiece which is called the wear plate, or the wear cylinder. This one has a steel one. This replacement piece looks like it's probably phenolic. So it's not steel. So first thing we'll do is we'll start by taking the packing off. And there's 4 different pieces all together. Alright. So we're just going to set that there. We're going to give this a little wipe. Okay. So what we have then is this come off like this, so the V packing has to go that way. So we start with a flat-sided one, which will be this one, the V on the inside. Well, that's actually pretty loose. Of course, it's not compressed into the cylinder yet. And then another reverse V goes on like that. See if these follow the same thing. Yep, reverse V goes on there. And then another reverse V goes on there. That one's a little tighter. So that's on, not completely, push it down in, it's a little bit tight, seems to be a gap. Should have been that one, and the last one. Supposed to be this one. Okay. Kind of feel like A-Bomb, Adam Booth. He's done a lot of cylinder rebuilds. Doesn't seem to go in as far. Yeah, there's somewhat of a gap there. And then this piece will go on. Tight fit. Okay. So just double checking myself here. Flat. V out, V out. V out, V out. Okay, and then this piece, which is the metal piece, which will leave that out since we're going to use this fiber washer one. Okay, so we need to take the seals off of this one. And it looks like it'd be the same way. Flat V, flat V, flat V. Okay, so put these over. This one goes on first. Oop. I'll wipe this down a little bit. Okay. So flat side down, V up. Slides on there pretty easily. V down. That one slides on easily. And V down. This one again is a little tight. That one fits pretty tight. It looks like the same thing. And these are slightly tapered. You probably can't see it too much on the video, but the V tapers out this way towards the end of the piston. And then this one goes on. And see if we can squeeze those together. They'll get forced together for sure whenever we bolt this back onto the cylinder rod. Little piece of something sticking there. Not liking that. What's going on with that? A little deformed right there. Looks like it must be from the molding. Little nib sticking up there. That one there's not too bad. That one's okay. And of course this gets pressed into here. See how much of a gap we got in there. Not much, just a little bit. Alright. And there we have one repacked piston. And I'll try and see if we can get this in a little closer. But you can see how the V's stick up this way and that way. In other words, they face the ends, they taper up towards the end of each side of the cylinder, or the piston. Alright, so there's our piston put together. Now, interesting thing on this cylinder, it has this shaft going through the bolt, goes through the bolt, got a little taper on the other end, and what this is basically, this is a spring goes in here and it goes inside the cylinder. This is a dampener. So basically when the piston comes back, it's going to come in. I think there's probably another little slot in the back side of the cylinder, probably about this deep it looks like, and then it presses down. The spring kind of dampens it a little bit when it gets to the end of travel in the back end. So let me grab the cylinder, or the rod. Okay, so here's the rod. I've already gone through and cleaned all the gunk and everything up on it. So this is the end that the piston goes on and gets bolted on. Got a little taper there to help put everything on. Now, This has had another bushing pressed in here. Full length bushing. There are no grease holes in it. There's still a grease fitting on here, but there's no grease hole here to allow it to go through. Now, the pin that come out of the back has a recess here because there's a bolt that goes across there to lock it in place. It looks like this must have been modified. They put a grease fitting on here, drilled down, drilled a hole out here, and I've already pressed in good grease, so it fits in there. But it's a pretty sloppy fit, so there's still a lot of wear on this one, so who knows how long ago this was done. But for now, it's okay. Later on down the line, we'll probably do more chores to take some of these and get the bushings put into them. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to try and get the gland nut on first, because it has to go on first, and then we can put the piston on. So put a little bit more grease in there. And this is going to be a tight fit, so this might take a little bit of effort. So I might cut off the video here, we'll see, after I get started. And I'm going to be out of frame here, so let me reposition a little bit and move that one over and down about right there. Okay, so we've got to get this over. So there's a taper on the end of the shaft that should help start it, and we may have to set this down, I don't know. Nope, so far so good. Into the packing in the back. There, it's tight. Okay, so it's down, passed through the packing. I'm going to stand this up and push down on it. Oh yeah. It's a lot better than how loose it was when I took it off the machine. Okay. So we got the gland nut on. Now comes the piston, and it takes the short or the small counter bore, goes on the end like so, and then our bolt with the spring and the dampener goes in next, and this actually fills up with hydraulic fluid after you run it for a little bit. Got to press in because the springs there. Okay, so we should be able to hand tighten this most of the way, and then we'll actually torque this down on the machine, which we'll get to here in a little bit. And I didn't bring in my big crescent wrench or sockets. Alright, so that's all together. Alright, so next step will be is to actually mount it on the machine. So here we go. Piston's on, rod gland's on. I'm going to put some grease on here before I try to put it in the machine after we torque this down. So we're going to take it out, put it on the machine, put the pin in, hold this in place, and we're going to torque it down. So be back at you here in just a little bit. Okay, well, what I did was I put the rod back in here and I put the bolt through to catch the pin so it didn't drop all the way through to hold this in place. Then you take the big socket. The nut's supposed to be 1 13/16. It wouldn't fit my 1 13/16 socket, so I had to use a 1 7/8. And then I also had a metal pipe that I put on the end to give it some more cranking, because it's supposed to be torqued down to a couple hundred foot-pounds. So we got it in there. The trouble that we have with this particular cylinder is because of this piece here.
this damper that sticks out. So you had to put this in here and basically push this assembly together, push it in, get it on the nut, start torquing it a little bit, be able to reach and grab the pipe, put the pipe on the end, and then try and torque down on it with a little thing all popping off on you. So it was fun. So next step, so we're going to get some grease just to grease these seals, because there's going to be pretty tight fit. Now I've also went through and loosened up and disconnected the hydraulic hose line from the back of the cylinder, otherwise I'm pushing on a vacuum if I try to do that. So just enough grease to cover up, get the cylinders on there, to get the cylinder or the piston rings so coated. I can do this a little later too, but go ahead and put a little bit more grease on this O-ring for whenever we get that in there. So now here comes the fun part. I gotta pull this pin out, and I have a rag in here in the cylinder that was used to catch some of the hydraulic oil that come out, and the threads are pretty sharp in there. So, and inside the cylinder is slightly tapered, so that should help make sure there's enough lubrication. All right, let's pull the pin out. Drop that back down in. Now we gotta try and line this up to the cylinder. And I may have to put something in there, yeah, because it's crooked. So hang on a second, I'll be back in a second. Okay, I kind of got a pipe pin here, pushing on this so the cylinder's out further. Let's see if we can get this baby in here and started without screwing it up. All right, you're going to want to tap it in a little harder, I guess. Trying to get it in far enough that I can get the thread started on this thing. Alright, well, everybody stand by, I'll be back in a second. Try and get this going good enough. Okay, well, it took a little bit of work, but I tapped this in a little bit further. That got these in, the gland nut in far enough to be able to start the threads. So got it all cranked down. Somebody put a locking screw in there to keep it from rotating, but should be okay that way. So then I had to finish tapping this in a little bit further so I could get the pin to drop down in. So the pin fits down from the top, bottom, whichever you want to do. So I got it tapped to where now it fits in there. It should drop in. So it dropped in. Now I need to take this bolt out and try to get it lined up with the slot on the pin, which is right there. Let's see if we can get this in. Alright, pin's in, lock washer, and locking nut. To secure that pin in, and I'll pump some grease down in it. Okay. Well, other than tightening up the hydraulic line in the back of the cylinder now, we're pretty much done. Tighten this down, pump some grease into here, tighten up the hydraulic line, and we'll be ready to start it up and see how we did. So, be back at you shortly. Okay everyone, that's the wrap. No leaks. Filled with fluid now, works perfectly both directions. And now we don't have to worry about a whole bunch of hydraulic fluid leaking out yet until the next seal goes. Okay, so with that said, a bit of work, but finally got it done. All operational now. Start doing some work. So thanks everybody for stopping by. This will be the end of episode 1 of Project Case. Till next time everybody out there, take care.